Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, we're taking a gentle journey inward, into the quiet and often overlooked world inside your own mind. Not the busy mind that plans and worries and rushes through the day, but the softer mind beneath it, the one that remembers, imagines, and slowly drifts when the lights go low. If you're listening from bed, you don't need to sit up or focus too hard. Let your body settle wherever it is. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow just a little, not forced, just natural. This is not a test. There's nothing you need to remember perfectly. These ideas are meant to float past you, like clouds moving slowly across a night sky. The human brain is not a passive observer of reality. It's an active builder. Every moment, it takes fragments of information, light, sound, movement, and quietly fills in the gaps. Much of what you experience as the world is actually a prediction your brain makes based on past experience. This happens so smoothly that you rarely notice it. You don't see raw reality. You see a carefully assembled version that feels stable and continuous. Even now, as your eyes blink and shift, your brain stitches the world together so it feels seamless. As you rest, those predictions begin to slow. The mind doesn't need to work as hard. The world becomes softer, less detailed, and easier to let go of. Familiar sounds can help this process along. A steady fan, distant rain, the low hum of the night, predictable sounds give the brain less to monitor. When nothing unexpected seems to be happening, your nervous system begins to relax its grip. You don't have to label the sounds around you or try to block them out. You can simply let them exist in the background, steady and unchanging, like a gentle signal that the night is calm and safe. Your attention, despite how powerful it feels, is actually very narrow. Psychologists often compare it to a spotlight on a dark stage. Whatever falls inside that beam feels clear and important, while everything outside fades into shadow. This is why you can miss obvious changes or forget details even when you're looking straight at something. It's not a flaw. It's efficiency. The brain was never designed to hold everything at once. And tonight, you don't need that spotlight at all. You can let it dim. You can let the stage go dark and quiet. Many people notice that nighttime feels emotionally different from the day. Thoughts seem deeper. Conversations feel more honest. Part of this is because mental filters weaken when we're tired. The brain has less energy to maintain social masks and constant self-monitoring. There's also something about the night itself, the reduced noise, the darkness, the sense that the world is resting, that encourages introspection. If emotions feel closer to the surface right now, that's not a problem to fix. It's a natural rhythm of the mind winding down. Memory, too, behaves differently than we often assume. It isn't a recording that plays back the past exactly as it happened. Memory is reconstructed each time it's recalled, shaped by emotion, context, and the present moment. That's why memories can shift over time and why two people can remember the same event differently. Late at night, tired brains may replay memories with added emotion or distortion. If a memory drifts in while you're trying to rest, you don't need to analyze it or correct it. You can let it pass like a dream fragment, not something that needs resolution right now. The brain also has a strong preference for unfinished things. Unanswered messages, incomplete tasks, unresolved conversations can linger in the mind because the brain dislikes open loops. This once helped our ancestors remember what still needed to be done. But at night, it can keep thoughts circling. A simple reassurance can help. Quietly acknowledging a thought, telling yourself that it's noticed and will be handled later, can be enough to ease the tension. The brain often relaxes when it feels acknowledged, even without immediate action. Small physical shifts can also influence how the mind feels. The body and brain are constantly communicating. Right now, without moving much, you might let your tongue rest gently at the bottom of your mouth. Let your shoulders sink just a fraction lower. Allow your breathing to slow naturally, with a slightly longer exhale. These subtle changes send signals of safety to the nervous system. And safety is one of the most important doorways into sleep. As this journey continues, we'll explore more of the quiet patterns shaping thought, emotion, and perception, ideas meant to soothe rather than stimulate. But for now, there's nothing you need to do except rest where you are. You don't have to stay fully awake. You can let the words become background noise, fading in and out as your mind begins to drift. You're exactly where you need to be. As the night deepens, the mind naturally begins to move in slower circles, and that is exactly where we want to be. You might notice thoughts arriving without effort, then fading just as easily, like ripples on dark water. This is a sign that the brain is shifting out of its daytime mode. During waking hours, the mind is trained to scan for relevance, danger, and urgency. At night, especially when the body is still, that constant scanning starts to loosen. The brain no longer needs to keep such a tight grip on the world, and attention begins to drift inward. One interesting truth about the mind is that it doesn't experience time evenly. Time is not a straight line inside the brain. It stretches and compresses depending on emotion, focus, and novelty. When you are anxious or alert, seconds can feel long and heavy. When you are absorbed or calm, minutes can slip by unnoticed. This is why the night can feel strange. Sometimes it seems endless, and other times it disappears in an instant. As you rest now, time may begin to lose its sharp edges. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to measure. The clock can keep time for you. The brain is also deeply influenced by familiarity. Familiar patterns feel safe. This is why routines, repeated sounds, and predictable rhythms can feel comforting at night. The mind evolved to relax when it recognized stable environments. When nothing new demands attention, the nervous system gradually lowers its guard. That's one reason repeating thoughts or gentle narration can be soothing rather than boring. The brain hears, "I know this," and responds by softening. You may notice that your body feels heavier as you lie still. This heaviness is not weakness. It's a natural response to relaxation. Muscles that were holding tension throughout the day finally receive permission to rest. The brain reduces signals to stay alert, and the body responds by sinking into the surface beneath it. You don't need to help this happen. Gravity does the work on its own. You can simply allow yourself to be held. Another quiet pattern of the mind is that it constantly searches for meaning, even when none is required. During the day, this helps us solve problems and make decisions. At night, it can turn into unnecessary analysis. A thought appears, and the brain tries to explain it, fix it, or push it away. But sleep does not come from control. It comes from release. Thoughts do not need answers right now. They can remain unfinished without harm. The mind knows how to set them down when given permission. Emotion and perception are closely linked. The way you feel can subtly change what you notice. When the mind is calm, the world feels softer. When the mind is tense, even small sensations can feel sharp. As relaxation deepens, perception itself begins to blur slightly. Sounds feel farther away. The boundaries of the body feel less defined. This is a natural transition state, not something to resist. It's the mind turning inward, preparing to rest. Breathing plays a quiet but powerful role here. You don't need to breathe deeply or in any special pattern. Just noticing that the breath is slower than before is enough. Each gentle exhale signals the brain that nothing needs immediate action. Over time, the nervous system responds by lowering heart rate and easing muscle tone. Sleep is not forced. It arrives when the brain feels safe enough to let go. If images or fragments of dreams begin to appear, you don't need to follow them. They may not make sense, and they don't have to. This is the mind beginning to mix memory, imagination, and sensation. It's a sign that waking logic is loosening its hold. You can observe these fragments passively, or you can ignore them entirely. Either way is fine. The brain knows what it's doing. The brain has a quiet habit of repeating itself. Research suggests that most of the thoughts you have today are echoes of thoughts you had yesterday and the day before that. Familiar concerns, familiar worries, familiar images loop gently through the mind because repetition costs less energy than novelty. The brain prefers efficiency. At night, these loops can become more noticeable because there are fewer distractions to interrupt them. But repetition doesn't mean importance. It simply means the brain is following paths that already exist, like water moving through a well-worn channel. Emotion plays a powerful role in deciding which memories stay close and which fade. Experiences tied to strong feelings tend to leave deeper marks, not because they are more accurate, but because emotion signals relevance to the brain. This is why you may remember how a moment felt more clearly than what actually happened. The mind stores feeling first, detail second. Over time, the feeling remains vivid while facts soften around it, reshaping the memory each time it returns. The sense of being watched is another curious feature of the mind. Many people have experienced the sudden urge to turn around, only to find someone looking at them. While this can feel mysterious, researchers suggest the explanation may lie in subtle sensory cues, changes in light, movement in peripheral vision, or faint sounds that the conscious mind doesn't register. The brain evolved to detect social attention quickly because awareness of others once meant survival. Even now, that ancient sensitivity remains quietly active. The human brain is not especially good at multitasking. When attention is divided, information competes for limited mental resources. This often results in weaker memories and shallow processing. What feels like efficiency is usually rapid switching rather than true simultaneity. Over time, constant switching can make sustained focus feel uncomfortable. The brain records life more richly when it is allowed to linger on one thing at a time, forming deeper and more stable traces. Physical touch has a measurable effect on how the brain processes discomfort. Studies show that gentle contact can reduce perceived pain by activating competing sensory pathways and releasing chemicals associated with bonding and safety. Touch does not erase pain signals, but it changes how they are interpreted. This may be one reason human connection has always played a role in healing across cultures and history. The body responds not just to medicine, but to closeness. Smell is uniquely tied to memory in a way no other sense quite matches. Unlike sight or sound, scent travels directly to brain regions involved in emotion and long-term memory. This direct route explains why a faint smell can instantly pull a forgotten moment into awareness. A trace of perfume, rain on pavement, or food from childhood can collapse decades into a single sensation. These memories often arrive without warning and feel unusually vivid, as if time has briefly folded in on itself. Belief itself can influence how the body feels. In studies of sleep, people who believed they had rested well often performed better the next day, even when objective measures showed otherwise. The brain adjusts energy and focus partly based on expectation. While belief cannot replace actual rest, it reveals how strongly perception shapes experience. The body often follows the story the mind tells it. Body language frequently reveals emotional states before they become conscious thoughts. Subtle changes in posture, muscle tension, or tone of voice can signal stress, interest, or discomfort. Others may notice these signals before the person experiencing them does. The body reacts faster than conscious awareness, offering a quiet preview of the mind's inner state. Some of the most vivid mental experiences occur during lucid dreams, when the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming. In this state, parts of the brain associated with self-awareness activate while the dream continues. People report flying, reshaping environments, or altering events as they unfold. These experiences demonstrate the brain's capacity to generate fully immersive worlds without external input, blurring the boundary between imagination and reality. Unfinished tasks tend to remain more accessible in memory than completed ones. Psychologists refer to this as the Zeigarnik effect. The mind holds onto incomplete actions as a way of ensuring they are not forgotten. Once a task is finished, the mental tension dissolves and the memory often fades. This tendency helped early humans survive, but in modern life it can cause thoughts to linger longer than necessary. Gratitude has measurable effects on stress hormones and emotional regulation. Regularly reflecting on positive experiences can lower cortisol levels and activate brain regions linked to empathy and well-being. This shift in attention alters the nervous system's baseline state, moving it away from threat monitoring and toward stability. Music has a powerful ability to unlock memory. Because it engages multiple brain regions at once, auditory, emotional, and motor, music can retrieve memories that seem otherwise inaccessible. This effect is so strong that familiar songs can bring clarity to people with advanced memory loss, briefly reconnecting them with parts of themselves thought to be unreachable. Déjà vu is one of the mind's most intriguing experiences. That sudden feeling that a moment has already happened can arrive without warning and vanish just as quickly. One leading explanation suggests that it occurs when the brain's recognition systems briefly misfire, creating a false sense of familiarity. A current experience may closely resemble stored patterns from the past, even if no specific memory can be recalled. For a few seconds, the present feels layered with something that seems older, as if time has folded over itself. Speech patterns often change under emotional pressure. When nervous or anxious, people tend to speak faster, skip pauses, and rush through sentences. This happens because the body's stress response increases heart rate and breathing, pushing thoughts forward more quickly than the mouth can comfortably follow. The pace of speech becomes a reflection of internal arousal, sometimes revealing tension even when words themselves remain calm. Much of the brain is still not fully understood. Despite advances in neuroscience, large portions of neural function remain only partly mapped. Researchers can observe activity, measure signals, and identify structures, but the deeper question of how subjective experience arises is still unanswered. Consciousness, memory, and emotion emerge from networks so complex that every discovery seems to open new questions rather than close old ones. Research suggests that many daily thoughts are repetitions of previous ones. The brain reuses familiar mental pathways because they require less effort. This tendency helps maintain consistency and predictability, but it can also limit novelty. New experiences and changes in routine can briefly disrupt these loops, encouraging fresh patterns of thought. Novelty acts like a signal to the brain that attention is required, widening perception and increasing memory formation. Yawning is a behavior shared across many species, and it often spreads socially. Seeing or hearing someone yawn can trigger the same response in others, even across different animals. Psychologists believe this contagion may be linked to empathy and social synchronization. The exact purpose of yawning is still debated, but its social spread suggests it plays a role in group cohesion rather than individual physiology alone. Hypnosis demonstrates the brain's ability to alter perception under focused attention. In hypnotic states, some people report reduced pain or altered sensory experience. Brain imaging shows changes in areas responsible for interpreting pain signals, indicating that the sensation itself is processed differently. The body still receives input, but the brain assigns it a new meaning, reshaping experience without physical intervention. Writing about emotional experiences has been shown to improve both psychological and physical health. Translating feelings into language helps organize complex internal states, reducing cognitive load. This process allows the brain to process emotion more efficiently, often leading to reduced stress and improved immune function over time. The brain prioritizes emotional content over neutral facts. Events tied to strong feelings are more likely to be remembered because emotion activates memory-related regions such as the amygdala. While this enhances recall, it can also distort accuracy. Emotional memory emphasizes significance rather than precision, preserving the essence of an experience while allowing details to fade. Small repetitive actions, such as chewing gum, have been linked to improved focus in certain tasks. The rhythmic motion appears to increase blood flow to the brain and stabilize attention. Though the effect is modest, it highlights how even minor physical behaviors can influence mental state. The order in which information is received affects memory. People tend to remember the first and last items in a sequence more clearly than those in the middle. This pattern, known as the primacy and recency effect, shapes how conversations, stories, and experiences are recalled. The brain naturally highlights beginnings and endings, framing memory like a narrative with brighter edges and a softer center. The brain can miss surprisingly large changes right in front of it, a phenomenon known as change blindness. When attention is briefly interrupted, even dramatic alterations in a scene can go unnoticed. This happens because the brain does not store every detail of the visual world. Instead, it keeps a rough model and fills in gaps based on expectation. Most of the time this shortcut works well, creating a smooth experience of reality, but it also reveals that perception is less like a camera and more like a sketch constantly being updated. Facial expressions are not just signals to others, they also feed information back to the brain. The muscles of the face send messages that influence emotional processing. Smiling, even subtly, can activate neural pathways associated with positive emotion, while tension in the brow or jaw can reinforce stress. This two-way communication shows how closely linked the body and mind are, each shaping the other in quiet feedback loops. Attraction often begins before conscious thought. Subtle cues such as voice tone, facial symmetry, posture, and scent can trigger responses rooted in biology and personal history. These impressions form rapidly, sometimes within seconds, creating a sense of chemistry that feels instinctive. The conscious mind often arrives later, providing explanations for a decision that has already begun at a deeper level. Flow states represent a unique mode of consciousness. During flow, attention becomes effortless, time perception shifts, and self-conscious thought fades. Brain activity during these states shows reduced involvement of regions associated with self-monitoring, allowing action and awareness to merge. This condition can occur during creative work, problem-solving, or skilled movement, producing a sense of immersion that feels both focused and calm. Technology has begun to reveal how adaptable human perception can be. Devices that translate unfamiliar information, such as magnetic direction or distance, into tactile signals can be learned by the brain over time. With repeated exposure, users begin to experience these signals intuitively, as if they were natural senses. This demonstrates the brain's capacity to integrate new streams of information and reshape perception itself. Learning physically alters the structure of the brain. Each new skill strengthens certain neural connections while forming new ones, a process known as neuroplasticity. Brain imaging studies show that learning can even change the size and density of specific regions. These changes occur throughout life, not only in childhood, proving that the brain remains adaptable far longer than once believed. Mood has a direct influence on perception. Emotional state affects how sensory information is filtered and interpreted. Positive moods can broaden attention, making colors seem richer and details more noticeable, while anxiety can narrow focus toward potential threats. In this way, emotion acts like a lens through which reality is viewed, subtly reshaping the world moment by moment. In emergencies, people are sometimes less likely to help when others are present. This bystander effect occurs because responsibility is diffused across the group. Each individual assumes someone else will intervene. When alone, the sense of responsibility becomes clearer, often prompting faster action. This pattern reveals how social context can shape behavior as powerfully as personal values. Stress can spread silently between people. Chemical signals released through sweat, along with facial expressions and body language, can trigger stress responses in others without conscious awareness. This social transmission likely evolved to help groups respond quickly to danger, but in modern settings it means tension can ripple through a room without a word being spoken. Nostalgia has been shown to influence physical sensation. Recalling meaningful memories can increase feelings of warmth and comfort, even affecting perceived temperature. Social connection and physical warmth share overlapping pathways in the brain, linking emotional safety with bodily sensation. This connection explains why memories of belonging can feel physically soothing. Fear can also be transmitted through observation. Watching someone else react with fear can activate similar neural responses in the observer. This mirroring allows humans to learn about danger indirectly, conserving energy and reducing risk. The brain simulates another person's experience, creating an internal warning system that operates without direct exposure. Authority has a powerful influence on behavior. Studies have shown that ordinary people can be led to perform actions they would normally question when instructions come from a perceived authority figure. This tendency is rooted in social learning and survival. Trusting leaders once increased the chances of group coordination and protection. While this instinct can be useful, it also reveals how responsibility can feel displaced when orders come from above. The eyes are not equally sensitive across the visual field. Peripheral vision is especially attuned to motion, detecting changes more quickly than central vision. This sensitivity evolved to help early humans notice threats or movement outside their direct line of sight. Even today, movement at the edges of vision often captures attention before conscious awareness fully engages. Handwriting activates the brain differently than typing. Writing by hand involves fine motor control, spatial planning, and visual feedback, engaging multiple brain systems at once. This richer sensory involvement leads to deeper encoding of information and improved recall. Slowing down the pace of writing also encourages summarization rather than transcription, strengthening understanding. The brain responds to facial expressions with remarkable speed. In a fraction of a second, it forms impressions about trustworthiness, competence, and familiarity. These rapid judgments arise from ancient neural systems designed for survival. While often useful, they are not always accurate and can be shaped by bias and past experience. The feeling of being watched can influence behavior. Even images resembling eyes have been shown to increase honesty and cooperation. This response is tied to evolutionary pressures where reputation within a group was essential. The brain reacts to the suggestion of observation by adjusting behavior, even when the observer is only symbolic. People tend to overestimate how much others notice them. Known as the spotlight effect, this bias arises because individuals experience the world from their own perspective and assume others share that focus. In reality, most people are absorbed in their own thoughts. Recognizing this can reduce self-consciousness and social anxiety. The placebo effect demonstrates how belief can shape physical outcomes. In some cases, even when people know a treatment is inactive, improvement still occurs. Expectation and ritual activate the brain's internal regulation systems, influencing pain perception, mood, and physiological responses. Emotion is often remembered more clearly than detail. The brain stores the emotional tone of an experience more reliably than specific facts. This prioritization helps guide future decisions but can also distort recollection. Memories become narratives shaped by feeling rather than precise records. Forgetting is an essential function of memory. The brain constantly filters information, discarding details that are no longer useful. This process prevents overload and allows important patterns to remain accessible. Forgetting is not failure, it is maintenance. The brain can adapt to altered sensory input. In experiments where vision was inverted, participants initially experienced disorientation, but over time perception adjusted. The world began to feel normal again despite the reversed input. This adaptability highlights the brain's role in constructing experience rather than passively receiving it. Group decision-making can increase risk under certain conditions. When opinions align, enthusiasm can amplify, reducing caution. This phenomenon, known as group polarization, shows how shared momentum can override individual hesitation. Optical illusions reveal how perception relies on interpretation. The brain uses shortcuts to process information quickly, and illusions expose these shortcuts by creating mismatches between expectation and input. What we see is not raw data, but a best guess shaped by context. Laughter has a measurable effect on the brain and body. When people laugh, the brain releases endorphins, chemicals associated with pleasure and pain relief, while reducing stress hormones. This shift creates a physiological state that supports resilience. Over time, repeated experiences of laughter can train the nervous system to recover more quickly from tension, strengthening emotional flexibility. A sense of purpose has been linked to longer and healthier lives. People who feel their lives have meaning often show lower levels of chronic stress and better overall health markers. Purpose encourages consistency in daily habits and provides a psychological anchor during difficult periods. Even simple forms of meaning, such as caring for others or engaging in creative work, can produce these effects. The brain contains specialized networks dedicated to recognizing faces. Deep within the temporal lobe, certain regions respond almost exclusively to facial features. This system is so efficient that recognition can occur in less than a second, even in crowded environments. Damage to this network can impair the ability to recognize familiar faces despite normal vision, highlighting how specialized and essential this function is. Meditation has been shown to alter brain structure over time. Regular practice is associated with increased thickness in regions linked to attention and emotional regulation, along with reduced activity in areas involved in fear responses. These changes reflect the brain's capacity to rewire itself based on repeated mental states, reinforcing calm through physical adaptation. Under certain conditions, people can experience an altered sense of self-location, sometimes described as observing the body from outside. Neuroscience links these experiences to disruptions in how the brain integrates sensory information related to body position and perspective. While often brief, such moments illustrate how the sense of self is constructed rather than fixed. Priming is another subtle influence on behavior. Exposure to specific words, images, or ideas can shape subsequent actions without conscious awareness. Recently activated concepts linger in the brain, making related responses more likely. This mechanism allows the mind to respond efficiently but also reveals how easily context can guide behavior. Kindness produces biological effects that extend beyond mood. Acts of helping others are associated with reduced stress hormones and improved immune function. These responses are partly mediated by oxytocin, a hormone linked to trust and bonding. Over time, kindness can form a reinforcing loop, benefiting both giver and receiver. Posture influences emotional state. Upright positioning can increase feelings of alertness and confidence, while collapsed posture may reinforce fatigue. This feedback loop between body and brain shows how physical alignment contributes to mental experience, shaping energy and perception subtly but consistently. Traumatic experiences can sometimes lead to positive psychological change, a phenomenon known as post-traumatic growth. Some individuals report increased empathy, stronger relationships, or clearer priorities following adversity. This does not minimize suffering but highlights the brain's capacity to reorganize meaning after disruption. Stress can be socially transmitted through observation. Facial expressions, vocal tone, and body language can trigger mirrored responses in others, activating similar neural pathways. This shared reactivity allows groups to respond quickly to danger but also means emotional states can spread silently through social environments. Mirroring is a subtle behavior that plays a powerful role in social connection. People naturally copy each other's gestures, posture, and speech rhythms without realizing it. This unconscious imitation helps build trust and rapport, signaling alignment and understanding. When mirroring happens naturally, conversations tend to feel smoother, more comfortable, and more cooperative. It is one of the quiet ways nervous systems synchronize during interaction. Learning something new leaves a physical trace in the brain. Each repetition strengthens synaptic connections, gradually turning fragile pathways into stable roots. This process unfolds slowly, but its effects accumulate. Skills practiced repeatedly become easier not because the task changes, but because the brain reorganizes itself to support it. Experience is written into neural structure, shaping future perception and response. Changing environments can enhance memory retention. Studying or practicing in different locations provides varied sensory cues, giving the brain multiple pathways for recall. Each setting adds texture to the memory, increasing the chance it can be accessed later. Variation strengthens learning by preventing memories from becoming too tightly bound to a single context. Teaching others deepens understanding. Explaining a concept requires organizing information, clarifying relationships, and anticipating questions. This active reconstruction strengthens memory more effectively than passive review. The brain consolidates knowledge more firmly when it is used rather than merely observed. Some fears appear more easily than others. Humans tend to develop fear responses to certain stimuli, such as heights or snakes, more readily than to neutral objects. This bias is thought to be inherited through evolution, reflecting dangers that were consistently relevant to survival. These predispositions influence emotion even in environments where the original threats no longer exist. Divided attention weakens memory formation. When focus shifts rapidly between tasks, information is encoded less deeply. The brain must constantly reorient, reducing the quality of storage. Over time, frequent task switching can make sustained attention feel more difficult, reinforcing shallow processing. Time perception shifts with emotion. Intense situations can feel longer because the brain records more detail, while routine experiences compress into shorter memories. This distortion explains why novel periods of life often feel richer and longer in retrospect. The brain measures time not by clocks, but by change. Memory is not fixed once formed. When recalled, memories briefly re-enter a flexible state before being stored again. During this window, they can be altered or weakened. This reconsolidation process explains why memories evolve and why repeated recall can change emotional intensity over time. False memories can feel as vivid as real ones. Suggestion, imagination, and repetition can lead the brain to construct experiences that never occurred. These memories may include emotion, imagery, and confidence, illustrating how convincingly the mind can generate internal reality. The brain fills in missing visual information automatically. Blind spots in vision are masked by surrounding detail, creating a seamless experience. This process happens continuously, smoothing gaps caused by blinking or obstruction. Perception feels complete because the brain edits the image in real time. Hearing one's own name triggers a distinct neural response. Even in noisy environments, the brain detects it quickly, activating regions linked to self-awareness. Names carry identity and social relevance, giving them priority in attention. Implicit biases form without conscious intent. The brain categorizes information rapidly, building associations through exposure and experience. These automatic patterns can influence judgment even when they conflict with personal values, revealing how deeply learning shapes perception. Group pressure can alter opinions. Individuals may conform to majority views despite private disagreement, especially when uncertainty is high. This tendency reflects the brain's sensitivity to social belonging, which once played a central role in survival. Sleep plays a critical role in insight and problem-solving. While the body rests, the brain remains active, reorganizing memories and forming new connections. During sleep, especially deeper stages, the mind is less constrained by logic and habitual patterns. This allows distant ideas to link together, sometimes producing solutions or insights that felt unreachable while awake. Many creative breakthroughs have emerged after rest, not because the brain stopped working, but because it worked differently. Teaching information to others strengthens memory by forcing active recall. When knowledge is retrieved and explained, neural pathways are reinforced and gaps in understanding become clearer. This process transforms information from something passively stored into something actively structured. The more often knowledge is reconstructed, the more durable it becomes. Doodling can support attention rather than disrupt it. Light, repetitive drawing occupies excess mental capacity, preventing the mind from drifting too far from the main task. By keeping a small part of attention engaged, doodling helps stabilize focus and improve recall of surrounding information. Taste is shaped more by smell than by the tongue. While the tongue detects only a handful of basic tastes, the complexity of flavor comes largely from aroma. The brain combines these sensory inputs into a single experience, linking taste closely to memory and emotion. This integration explains why certain flavors evoke vivid recollections. Spacing learning over time improves long-term retention. Reviewing information across multiple sessions strengthens memory more effectively than cramming. Each retrieval reinforces neural connections, making recall more resilient. Forgetting between sessions is not failure, but part of the learning process that deepens memory. Decisions often begin before conscious awareness. Brain activity associated with choice can be detected seconds before a person reports making a decision. This suggests that unconscious processes prepare actions in advance, with consciousness arriving later to interpret them. Choice emerges from layered systems rather than a single moment of awareness. Some individuals experience blended senses, a condition known as synesthesia. Sounds may evoke colors, numbers may appear textured, or words may carry flavors. This occurs due to increased connectivity between sensory regions of the brain. While uncommon, it illustrates how perception can vary widely while still feeling entirely natural to the person experiencing it. Emotionally charged information is remembered more easily than neutral data. The brain prioritizes material tied to social relevance, particularly stories about others' behavior. This bias reflects the importance of social awareness in human history, where understanding relationships and trust could determine survival. Cognitive reappraisal can reduce stress by altering interpretation. When situations are viewed through a different lens, emotional intensity often decreases. This shift engages regions of the brain involved in regulation, reducing automatic fear responses and supporting adaptability. Mild fatigue can sometimes enhance creativity. When mental filters loosen, unusual associations become more accessible. This state allows ideas to combine in less conventional ways, supporting divergent thinking. Extreme exhaustion impairs function, but gentle tiredness can open space for originality. Compliments activate reward systems in the brain. Social praise triggers dopamine release, reinforcing behavior and improving mood. Even brief, Sincere acknowledgement can produce measurable effects, strengthening motivation and connection. The brain can simulate pain through imagination. Observing others in distress or vividly imagining injury activates neural circuits associated with pain processing. This capacity supports empathy and learning but also explains why anticipated discomfort can influence behavior. Lack of sleep interferes with memory formation. Without sufficient rest, the hippocampus struggles to consolidate new information, leaving experiences poorly encoded. Over time, chronic sleep loss can impair learning and recall. Repeated exposure increases perceived truth. Statements heard often feel more familiar, and familiarity is frequently mistaken for accuracy. This mental shortcut helps learning but can also reinforce misinformation when repetition replaces evidence. The brain devotes specialized resources to recognizing faces. Certain regions respond so strongly to facial structure that they can identify familiar individuals almost instantly, even in crowds. This ability developed because recognizing others was essential for cooperation, trust, and survival. The system is so sensitive that it can sometimes detect faces in clouds or patterns, revealing how deeply the brain is tuned to social perception. Anticipation often carries its own emotional reward. Looking forward to an event activates brain regions associated with pleasure and motivation, sometimes producing more sustained positive feeling than the event itself. Imagining the future allows the mind to construct ideal versions of experiences, extending enjoyment across time. Smell influences mood without conscious awareness. Because olfactory signals travel directly to emotional and memory-related brain regions, even faint scents can alter feelings and behavior. Calming aromas can slow physiological arousal, while sharper scents increase alertness. These effects occur quietly, shaping the emotional background of experience. Sound can trigger physical responses. Certain tones and rhythms influence breathing, heart rate, and muscle tension. The brain processes sound not only as information but as movement and emotion, linking it closely to bodily state. This connection reflects ancient survival systems that responded rapidly to auditory cues. Problem-solving changes when done alone. Solitary thought allows deeper internal visualization and reduced social influence, often supporting originality. While collaboration brings energy and shared perspective, working alone can create space for reflection and unconventional insight. Emotion sharpens memory for key moments. High arousal signals importance to the brain, strengthening storage. While central details are preserved, peripheral information may fade. These memories form emotional landmarks that shape personal narrative. Neural mirroring increases persuasiveness. Subtle imitation during conversation fosters trust and alignment, making ideas more acceptable. This effect operates beneath awareness, reinforcing connection through shared rhythm and movement. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to change throughout life. Learning, experience, and even recovery from injury reshape neural pathways. The brain is not fixed but continuously remodeled by use. Time perception warps under extreme emotion. Fear, excitement, and/or alter sensory processing, stretching or compressing moments. The brain records more information during intense states, changing how time is remembered. Despite scientific progress, much about the mind remains unknown. Consciousness, subjective experience, and the integration of thought and feeling are still partly mysterious. Each discovery reveals complexity rather than closure. As this journey through psychological science reaches its end, the ideas explored form a quiet mosaic of how the mind shapes experience. Memory, perception, emotion, and awareness are not separate systems but intertwined threads. The mind is not merely a processor of information, but a living landscape that continuously recreates reality from within.